everybody. This is Polly Traylor. I'm with Komprise. Welcome to our first in a new video series called Data on the Move. I have with me today Steve Wisniewski, who is in Raleigh, North Carolina. I am in Denver. And how are you today, Steve?
Doing great. It's a crisp February morning here in Raleigh. How are you in Colorado?
Good. It's Valentine's Day, in case anybody cares about that.
That's right.
So anyhow, well, great. Well, we're going to talk today about cloud data migrations. And just a quick note, if you do not know who we are, Komprise, we are intelligent data management, and that means we handle unstructured data, we analyze it, we move it, we replicate it, and we help organizations save money and also deliver increased value from their data. So I'm happy to launch this today with Steve. And Steve, let's get into cloud data migration. What does that look like? How do organizations typically do it? What's involved?
I think the big difference with cloud data migration, I'll just kind of draw a contrast to the way migrations are done in the past. So in the past, migrations were primarily about moving from one enterprise storage array to another. So probably you had an older array that was at the end of its life. Every 3 to 5 years, you now had this massive data move to a new platform. And that was really tough. And so the difference of the cloud, and really it's kind of the same with everything in the cloud, it's all about agility. You have so many more choices in the cloud than you have on premises that you need to put yourself in a position that you can take best advantage of all those things and be ready to pivot to what's next. So I think that's one of the interesting things when we talk to our customers about the data. They see so much potential in their data, right? So it's not just like, what's the value of my data right now? It's what's the value of my data going to be in the future? So you want to make sure that you pick the right platform where your data is going to go, which then also means that you need the intelligence about your data to make that best choice. And that's really where I think there's kind of a difference with cloud data migration. It's less about massive monolithic data movements and more about getting good intelligence about your data, picking apart individual data sets, maybe that span many different shares or many different resources, and then moving them to the right resource with the flexibility that you may make another move in the not too distant future to take advantage of something else.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So much more nuanced than in the past now with all the choice we have in the cloud. And of course, that depends on which cloud provider you're working with. But certainly sussing out those choices, understanding what your options are is important. Before we get into any tips or anything like that, Steve, maybe you can talk a little bit about some of the common challenges that organizations have had in the past with these migrations and currently, and you certainly, one that comes to the top of my mind is cost. It ends up being more expensive than you think it would, but maybe you can just give us a quick overview of what those challenges or barriers are.
Yeah, I think in the beginning, there was a lot of enthusiasm about moving to the cloud. And I think the mistake that a lot of customers made was just trying to recreate exactly what they had on premises in the cloud. And a lot of those decisions were probably made, strictly by the storage or the enterprise IT teams. And what they really needed to do was to work with their line of business owners, with the actual, data scientists or the people that created that data. By working with them, you can make better choices. So, in the past, what we've seen is a customer, literally just tries to recreate what they had on-prem in the cloud. It winds up being very expensive. You also may run into performance issues with things like latency, where maybe the consumers of that data are still on-prem and now you're constrained by the bandwidth of the cloud. And there's other things to consider, things like egress fees, right? So the cloud providers are typically, very low cost, maybe even no cost on the way in. But then because they want to incent you to move more and more of your workloads to the cloud, it can be very expensive if you have to pull that data back on-prem or even to another region. So that's another consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been reading about that. Some organizations really getting burned on those egress fees. I wonder, do you have any ideas about how IT leaders are thinking about that, how to mitigate those egress fees or minimize them?
I think it's more well known now. I think most of the cloud providers do a good job of trying to educate their customers. They have calculators that can help you model cost. So I think that's just one thing, that you need to kind of plan ahead, and be ready to pivot, right? So if you do see costs that are unexpected, you should be able to pivot to another resource, maybe move your compute adjacent to that resource, or in some cases, maybe even pull it back on-prem, right? So I think that's the other part is, moving to the cloud is not a one and done thing, or maybe even a forever thing, right? We do see customers that are pulling things back on-prem, or even, taking it to another cloud, right? There's multiple cloud vendors out there, and hybrid cloud operations are probably the de facto reality for most of our customers now, right? They're going to pick more than one cloud provider. That puts them in the driver's seat from a cost perspective. They've kind of got a little more leverage when it comes time to negotiate. And the cloud providers know this as well. So I think we're all kind of operating in this hybrid cloud world now.
Sure, yeah. So great. So what we've touched on so far is analysis is important, understanding your data, segmenting it into different categories based on usage or age, being cognizant of those egress fees when you move data. And I guess anything else, some top considerations on, excuse me, there's my phone. Anything else on top considerations for moving data to the cloud that companies are thinking about now in particular?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting. I think there's some interesting, we're kind of at an inflection point right now where, customers see the value of the data as it is today, but they also see the potential value of the data in the future, right? So as new analytics applications, new AI ML applications come onto the market, a lot of customers, understand, well, my data has a certain value today, but it may have more value in the future. So retention becomes really an interesting question. So, we've talked to some customers in the not too, like just a few weeks back. Some customers are very aggressive about deleting data as quickly as they can. Other customers want to retain forever. And of course, there's a cost to all those things, right? So if you delete data very aggressively, yes, your storage bills are going to go down. But at the same time, that future opportunity cost is lost, or that future opportunity is gone, right? You're never going to get that data back. At the same time, if you keep everything, right, your storage costs are going to go up, and it's difficult to manage all that. So there's it's this interesting inflection point in the industry where customers, understand there's value in the data, but at the same time, the challenge of managing that data and the cost of that data and the security of that data is all things that get tougher as your volume of storage increases.
Sure.
So it's a balancing act. And I think, customers are really trying to work with that and come up with good answers.